Hello and welcome to Sports Your Shorts. I'm Andrew.
I'm Jimmy.
And today we've got a pretty good show for you. We're going to talk some MLB news, some NCAA news, then some NBA, and then finish it with the NFL. So in the MLB today, we're going to start with the league leaders. The Yankees are leading the AL East 18-9, which I'm pretty happy about because I'm a pretty big Yankee fan. And the Cleveland is leading the AL Central 16-13. And then the AL West is led by Houston Astros. Then if you move to the National League, the Washington Nationals lead the NL East. The Chicago Cubs lead the NL Central. And Colorado leads the NL West. Now, some shocking news about Colorado and the Cubs. One of the starters for Colorado, Carlos Gonzalez, is off to a really rocky start, and it's seemingly not affecting the Rockies too much because they're leading the division. But if he doesn't turn it around, he is one of their best hitters, so it could affect them. For the Chicago Cubs, their starting third baseman, Kyle Schwaner, is off to a really bad start as well. He's not playing very good defense, and he's also not hitting the ball very well. Again, it's not affecting them that much because they lead the division, but they only lead it by a game, so it could later on affect them if Kyle doesn't get his game together, and Carlos for the Colorado Rockies. Some other players that are really struggling, and it's hurting their team, are the Eric Hosmer for the Royals. He's batting .271, and I mean, even though it's not terrible, he did hit .214 for this month, and he went 0-6 for bases loaded situations. So he's definitely not producing for the Royals, and maybe that's why they're worst in the league this year. Is one of their best hitters is not producing.
Yeah, it's about time to start panicking, in my opinion. It hasn't fixed itself, and I'm tired of seeing them lose so much.
Yeah, and I guess you could start having him hit lower in the lineup. Maybe that will make him produce more instead of having him hit third, have him hit seventh. That way he doesn't have to hit with runners in scoring position as much, and he won't get as much at-bats, and that might help his batting average. And who knows, you have that much pop in the lower your lineup, maybe it might help the other guys hit more. I mean, maybe that's a suggestion because when you're hitting 0-for-6 with bases loaded, I mean, that's not going to help your team at all. So, let's hope he can get it back on track because he's an all-star player. And I think that's about it for the MLB because we're still only 30 games in a 162-game season. So, there's still 130 games to go. So, there's a lot that can change from here on out. There is one news is David Price is battling injury, but the Red Sox expected him to come back pretty soon. He may not even miss one start, so
that's good news.
That is pretty good news. Now that we move on to the NCAA, Nick Saban, the Alabama coach, has signed an 8-year, $65 million contract. Now that sounds like a lot of money because it is a lot of money, but what do you think about that, Jimmy?
It's a lot of money. And I think he deserves every penny. Because if you tell me that you could spend $8 million a year and you're almost guaranteed a spot in the national championship, you would do that, right?
Yeah.
And Nick Saban's the coach. He will get that done.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great scouting coach. He makes people want to come to Alabama. So, I mean, I don't think if you ask any star NFL player, who do they want to play for? They want to play where they can win a national championship, and that's Nick Saban. I mean, he's won. They've at least made the national championship 3 years in a row. They didn't win last year because Clemson won, but they've at least made it there. So,
yeah, he is a great college coach, and he doesn't care about getting his players ready for the NFL.
No.
So, he pushes his players so hard that they're 3 years into their NFL career when they graduate. But he takes them to championships, and if winning is everything.
Yeah, and if you think it's a lot of money, which it is, the Oregon Ducks, who didn't have anybody drafted by the NFL and didn't even have a good record this year, spent $60 million on a training facility. So they spent the same amount of money on a training facility, and they had nobody drafted by the NFL and barely made the playoffs. I mean, I would rather spend that $60 million on a coach than on a training.
I would too, 100%.
So, yes, it's a lot of money, and yes, it is going to just one person, but this one person is winning you championships.
Exactly.
A training facility that the Oregon Ducks hasn't won them anything.
And
didn't even get them any players drafted in the NFL.
They make $90 million a year from their football revenue.
Mm-hmm.
So, in 1 year, they'll pay off 70% of his contract. So, he brings the money into the school, because if they had a bad coach, they wouldn't be getting the money that they're getting.
They wouldn't be getting the $90 million a year. Another NCAA news that we wanted to talk about was, do you think NCAA players should get paid, Jimmy?
If the coaches get paid this much, I think they shouldn't get paid necessarily, but they should have a lot more perks at the school.
Well, some of them get free room and board. Some of them get free, like they're usually some aren't from there, so they get free tuition for students and all that.
What I think you should be able to do is you should be able to sell, the players should be able to sell their jerseys and game worn shoes. That way, so the boosters of their school, they have a source of income. Mm-hmm. Because, in my opinion, if you start paying the players, they're not going to focus on their education. They're going to be like, I'm here to get paid.
Yeah.
And that's not what you need to do. What do you think?
Well, here's my thing. I really like the idea of selling their jerseys or making a brand of selling shoes, because when you're in college, you need money. We can debate whether these guys have their room and board paid for, but you just need money for essential things, clothes or food. Like, you can't always eat the cafeteria food. The cafeteria food ain't the best.
No, I agree.
So these kids need just a little bit of money in their pocket, and if they're making like $100 a jersey and they sell 10 of them, that's enough for the whole school year. That's about it. Like, or they're making $10 a jersey and they sell 10 a week. Like, that's enough for the whole school year too. So they just need a little bit of money in their pocket, is what I think. I don't think they should get paid, but it'd be nice for them to make a little bit of money, because these kids cannot have a job doing 2-a-days.
Exactly, that's what I was about to say.
Getting hurt in games. Some jobs, like, I broke an arm one time and couldn't work for a week. And
that's one thing I was going to say. They can't get a part-time job to make money, and they need to find something.
Yeah.
The NCAA should either pay them $100 a game or something. Yeah. Just something small.
Yeah.
But the problem is there's so many schools that eventually the NCAA is going to start losing a lot of money.
That's why I like the idea that you brought up of paying the jersey, because people will buy jerseys with numbers on it, and if they put the name on the back, people will buy those because that's their favorite player. Because people have favorite players in college, that's a thing. It doesn't exist in the NFL and the NBA. I mean, people have favorite players in college, so they'll buy the jersey.
Now, another question I have. I think it will work a lot better if the NCAA didn't pay them, but they let the schools pay them a certain, like a max. Like Alabama can't be like, hey, we'll give you $1,000 a week since they're offering you $500. Just like make the schools, if you want to pay your football players $100 a week, you could do that.
Yeah.
That way, it's not on NCAA to pay.
Yeah.
It's on the schools, and if the schools want to be successful in football, they will.
And a lot of these kids come from troubled homes, so them having a little bit of money maybe to send back to home because they don't need, or them having a little bit of money to not because they can't ask their parents, because they may have to drop out, they may have to do illegal things to get money because they can't do it any other way. So this kind of helps. If they get paid something, it helps them a little. In other news, Jim Harbaugh and the Wolverine players visited Pope Francis at the Vatican. Is that really news?
I think so. Name another coach that takes his players on adventures like this. I'll wait.
But it's just to see the Pope.
Name another football team that's ever gone to see the Pope. I'll wait. It's not just this. He takes his team to Disney World. He takes his team all sorts of places. That way, the college recruits see this and be like, they look like they're having a lot of fun. I want to go with them.
I want to go play with the Wolverines.
I want to go play with Michigan because I think this is a very good recruiting tactic.
I guess you could look at it that way. I just kind of see it as he's just taking them to go see the Pope. I mean, I didn't know he took him to Disney World, so that's kind of cool.
He does something like this every summer.
Okay.
Now, if you were a prospect, a 5-star prospect, and you see Alabama over here doing 2-a-days in the off-season, and you see Clemson over here just working away, and then you see Michigan going on vacation to Niagara Falls or something, which school are you going to pick to go to?
I would have a hard time deciding, but Michigan does sound like a little bit of fun because there's a little bit of time after.
Harbaugh is a player's coach, too.
Yeah. And you got to realize that this is something they may never see. Like, football's not everything. So, with these other things, players start to develop that football is everything. You've got 2-a-days, and then you've got the games.
And they don't have a life outside of that.
They don't. And that's another thing of trying to make money is they don't have a life.
Let's be honest. These kids could be out doing drugs and stuff and getting into trouble, but he's taking them out. And let's face it, a lot of these college players aren't going to the NFL. Very few do.
Yeah.
And the few that do, most of them are not going to be good. So let them do this so they can experience the stuff. And I think more teams should jump on board.
Never looked at it that way. It's a good idea. And it is a good recruiting tactic. It gives them something to kind of look forward to besides football, because there's another life after football that most players do not realize.
Exactly. And let's move on to the NBA.
Well, before we move on to the NBA, we've got to hit a commercial break.
Oh, commercial break.
Yeah, we got to pay some bills. There's got to be bills to be paid, so we have these shows. So we'll return with some NBA news. This is Sports Your Short. I'm Andrew.
I'm Jimmy.
Everybody, it's the young visionary Kobe Thompson.
And this is the young king himself, Jay Todd.
And this is the +1, Jessica Miller.
And we are the originals, plus one. We are the originals because we've been doing our thing on the radio, J. Todd. They just now getting in tune with it. But hey, tune in now. Better late than never, right?
We've been here, cats and kittens, cool men and cool women all around campus. Make sure you tune in every day from 7:30 p.m. to 8 o'clock p.m. sharp. Do not miss out.
Yes, please tune in for the best 30 minutes of your life.
Boom.
Bang.
And we are back to Sports Your Shorts. I'm Jimmy.
And I'm Andrew.
All right, now let's go talk about the NBA.
Yeah, because now we don't have to pay bills.
The Cavaliers, I might have predicted them to lose round one, but they've been dominating everybody. Do you think they're going to sweep the playoffs?
I don't know about sweeping the playoffs, but they're definitely going to sweep the Raptors. And I kind of saw this coming, and maybe this is where I think there's like a hoax in the NBA and in the NFL.
Illuminati?
Maybe it's the Illuminati, but like I think the NBA plans for people to have an easy road. Like I think if the Bucks won, they would have a more difficult road because you've got Giannis Antetokounmpo who can match up against LeBron. And the Raptors have nobody to match up against LeBron. They've got a 6'5" forward and PJ Tucker, and then they've got a 6'2" forward. They've got nobody to match up LeBron.
I don't think there's anybody in the league besides Kevin Durant that can match up with LeBron, but it would have made a more entertaining matchup.
Yeah, like a 6'9" guy against a 6'7".
I'm not sure that the Bucks could have even beat him. It would have been a lot more competitive in this game.
I feel like it would be because the Raptors have nobody to match
Cavaliers have been toying with them. Yeah. LeBron James taking pictures, pretending to drink beer, twirling the ball in his hands before a shot. Mm-hmm. It's not even. They're bored.
Yeah.
The Cavaliers are bored, and they need to. NBA needs to get better players, or need to stop these super teams from existing because it's not fun.
Well, the super teams exist because they have the money to exist. That's not their fault.
I know, But it's just irritating because it's boring.
It is boring.
I'm not interested in watching that matchup. You know what matchup I'm interested in watching? The Rockets and Spurs, or the Boston and Washington. I'm not interested in watching the Cavaliers just dominate everybody, or the Warriors just annihilate everybody.
And I honestly think that when the Cavs make it out, if Boston wins, they do have Jay Crowder, who's a very good defender at forward, and he's 6'6", 265. LeBron is 6'7", 275. There's a little bit of difference, but he can match up against LeBron, and maybe the Celtics could pull it out, or at least make it a fun series. But the Raptors have nobody to match up against LeBron's strength. They've got nobody.
And speaking of the Celtics, Boston and Washington, their games are not close. But right now, Boston leads the series 2-1 as of this recording.
Yeah.
Who do you think is going to come out?
I think Boston's going to come out because Isaiah Thomas is Mr. Fourth Quarter. Like he scored 50 points in game 2.
Crazy. No one's ever done that.
Yeah, and the game before that he didn't score that many points, but he had like an outstanding number of assists.
He's 5'9". No one in NBA history has been this successful in this short.
Yeah, and it's not even about his height. It's just the fact that he can make plays, and he makes everybody around him better.
He's so small. I don't understand how he can get into the lane like he does.
Because he's fast.
And you want to know? You want to know something crazy? What? There's more difference between Isaiah Thomas's height and Steph Curry's height than there is between Steph Curry and LeBron.
That is crazy.
Just to think about that is insane.
But it's his speed that gets him into the lane. Like
I get that.
John Wall got in the lane in 3 seconds because he's only 6'1" and he's that fast. It's the same thing with Isaiah Thomas. He can get there.
5'9".
Yeah, he's faster than any other player.
I know, but it's crazy. Anyways, speaking of Steph Curry, the Warriors, they're not being challenged by anybody.
Well, they aren't going to be challenged until the third round, until they face the Rockets or the Spurs.
I don't think they'll be challenged by the Spurs. I think the only team that could put up a challenge will be the Rockets. Because Spurs cannot go shot for shot with the Warriors.
If LaMarcus Aldridge plays like he did...
But he's not.
In Game 3, where the Spurs took a 2-1 lead, they could challenge them and win 1 or 2 games. But if LaMarcus Aldridge plays like he did in Game 1, where he gets 2 points and goes 1 for 10, the Warriors are going to sweep him.
Yeah.
It's all about how LaMarcus Aldridge plays. It really is for the Spurs. It's all about how he plays. Kawhi Leonard is just a side piece.
Back to the Warriors for a little bit. I think the series is just boring. Do you think that they have a chance of losing a game?
No. They don't have a chance of losing a game until the third round. They might sweep the playoffs. And that almost goes for the Cavs, too. They don't have a chance of losing a game to the third round.
I think the Warriors will sweep the playoffs unless the Rockets get out, and then I could see it going 5 or 6 games, but I still see the Warriors coming out on top. I could just see James Harden turning it on for a game and no one being able to stop him.
Now, does this affect the Warriors? Draymond Green did get hurt and had limited time playing last game, and in this game he's questionable.
Last year, I would have said yes, but you still got Kevin Durant on the court. You got Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and
but Draymond Green's such a good defender.
I get that. But they can go pound for pound on offense better than anybody. So the other team might score 120 points. The Warriors are going to go score 130.
Okay.
And who's their center right now?
JaVale McGee.
He's turned it on towards the end of the year.
Yeah, he really has. He's played a lot better. He's no more Shaq than a fool.
That's exactly. And don't get me started on Shaq. Let's move on to the Spurs and Rockets. After getting beat by 27 points by the Rockets in Game 1, and Tony Parker going out injured for the rest of the season in Game 2, the Spurs have still managed to win 2 in a row in a dominating fashion. So they lead the series 2-1. Who's going to come out of this series?
I really think the Rockets are, because the Spurs have a lot to go through now that Tony Parker's hurt, and now
They did great in Game 3 without him.
But with him hurt, I think it's going to affect him. It may not affect him in Game 3. And the reason why they did great in Game 3 is because LaMarcus Aldridge got 26 points, 14 rebounds. He had an amazing game. In Game 1, he did terrible.
But he's so inconsistent. That might not happen.
That's why I think the Rockets are going to pull it out. It's because LaMarcus Aldridge is very inconsistent.
But so far,
Kawhi Leonard can't do it all.
So far in the playoffs, James Harden's been pretty inconsistent too.
Yeah,
he did not do well in the first series. The only reason they won the first series, in my opinion, is because Westbrook's a ball hog and wouldn't share the ball.
But not Westbrook.
No, when they won Series 1.
Yeah.
Against the Thunder.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
The only reason they won that is because Westbrook wouldn't share the ball with his teammates and would shoot 1 for 10 in the fourth quarter and blow a lead. So I could see. I think the Rockets are going to win this, but I could also see the Spurs going Game 7.
And what I think this is a good thing is the Spurs need to trust their young talent. They've got a lot of old players, and with Tony Parker going out, Manu Ginobili not playing as much, they're starting to trust Danny Green more, and they're starting to trust Patty Mills, which I think is a fantastic point guard. And I feel like once this year's done, if Tony Parker retires, they need to go younger because the whole team is old, and they need to start trusting their younger talent because they can do some things with their younger talent. And I think this is kind of a way to start it with Tony Parker hurt. Hate to say it because Tony Parker's a great player, but this is a way to start it for him. In other news, Lonzo Ball declined 3 offers.
They didn't offer him anything.
Well, I thought Under Armour offered him and all that.
No, they said we are not going to give this guy a contract to spite his father. His father has made them so mad. They won't give him any deals. So the Big Baller brand, which is a joke by the way, he's released his design for shoes that are going to cost $495. $495
a shoe.
Can you believe that?
Well, no one's going to be able to afford them, and the people who are going to be able to afford them.
Shaquille O'Neal says, "You are ripping kids off of their hard-earned money. I hope you're proud of yourself." And they have they're releasing slippers, basically flip-flops, for $125.
That's outrageous.
It's insane.
Well, what's also insane about it, is what if he does terrible? They're putting so many eggs in one basket to watch him be a bust. Okay, there's so many players in the NBA that had great college careers that were bust in the NBA. They were just terrible.
I don't think he'll be a bust. I think he will be a superstar. I don't think he'll be Steph Curry.
Okay.
But I think he is going to be really good, but his shoe company's a joke. Speaking of jokes, though, did you hear what the Rams punter said on Twitter?
What?
He says, "I'm so excited to announce my collaboration with the Big Baller brand. I'm releasing shoes with them that are going to cost $9,000. That's pretty reasonable, don't you think?" That's word for word his tweet.
Oh my God. That's so
He's trolling them, and I think it's funny because the Big Baller brand's a joke in my opinion.
I think it's more than a joke, and I honestly will laugh my head off to the bank when he becomes a bust and all these people wasted money.
I agree.
And regardless of what you think, I think they're putting too many eggs in one basket. I really do. Even if he is like a good player.
Even if Lonzo Ball is one of the best of all time. It's too much for shoes, and his brothers are not going to be near as good as he is.
And not only is it just that, you're burning bridges with all these things. You're burning bridges with Under Armour. You're burning bridges with Adidas
and Nike.
All of those things that have great potential for you.
And another thing about Lonzo Ball, his dad he lets his dad run his life. That's not going to work in the NBA locker rooms. He's going to get heckled. He's not going to feel wanted on his own team because his dad's going to be calling the shots.
Exactly.
And the teams are going to want to stay away from him because his dad's not going to stop talking. It's going to cause a lot of drama in the locker room.
All right. Enough of the big baller brand because we could talk the whole show about it.
All right. What do you think the Clippers should do with Doc Rivers and the Big Three?
What I think they should do is let Doc Rivers coach. He's a great coach. He led the Celtics to championships. They should just let him coach.
Exactly.
They need to figure something out.
They need to take away his GM responsibilities and let him coach.
Just let him
coach. What do they need to do with the Big Three? Or do you just keep everything intact?
I mean, it's not working. They've gone 5 years and they've gotten knocked out and they've had a lead in the playoffs. So it's not working. I don't know what part of the Big Three is not working.
Blake Griffin.
That was my idea. Was Blake Griffin needs to develop a jump shot. He really does. And I think this whole lob city needs to kind of stop because that's their whole offense. It's just lobs, and Blake Griffin has no jump shot. If he develops a jump shot, which we've tried to give him years to develop, and he can't stay healthy, then maybe it's a shot, but he cannot do a jump shot and he can't stay healthy.
Okay. Now, another question about this. What should Chris Paul do? If they offer him the 5-year max deal, should he take it or should he go sign with the Spurs or the Celtics who have a good chance of making the NBA Finals? Or should he stay with the Clippers?
Well, here's the thing that might make him stay with the Clippers. They were talking about making him a statue. And he's always
the best player they've ever had.
And he's always just kind of wanted that. He's always kind of just wanted to be idolized as a good player.
He's the best true point guard in the league.
Yeah, and he's always just kind of liked where he's at. So for them to make a statue, I think that would make him stay regardless of how much money they gave him, because it would just kind of give him that feeling of like, this team really respects me. I'm always going to be like, when they think of Chris Paul, they're going to think Clippers, great point guard, one of the best in the league at true point guard. That's what they're gonna think. And when he leaves and they do that, could tarnish his career. Because then they're gonna forget about what he did after if they think about this statue.
I get that, but he's been in the league for so long. He needs to win a championship.
There's just some players that don't get championships.
But he's so good.
Carmelo Anthony was so good at one point. When he had the braids at Denver. Allen Iverson was so good at one point. Vince Carter's amazing.
Okay.
Jason Kidd.
Okay.
The list goes on and on.
I get that. But the difference between Chris Paul and all of those players, Chris Paul's a good teammate. He shows up and he works every day.
Vince Carter's a good teammate.
I get that, but Chris Paul's more talented than Vince Carter.
He is.
Allen Iverson didn't want to practice. Carmelo Anthony is a ball hog, and he doesn't play defense. Chris Paul does everything. He's a very good defender, and he's a good shooter, and he knows how to lead a team. The problem, I think, in that locker room is Blake Griffin has such an ego for a player who's not even that good anymore.
And he gets hurt. You can't. It's a liability.
Gets hurt, exactly. But let's go ahead and take another commercial break, and then when we get back, we'll talk about the NFL.
All right, this is Sports Shorts. Go.
Everybody, it's the young visionary Kobe Thompson.
And this is the young king himself, Jay Todd.
And this is the +1, Jessica Miller.
And we are the originals, plus one. We are the originals because we've been doing our thing on the radio, Jay Todd. They just now getting in tune with it. But hey, tune in now. Better late than never, right?
We've been here, cats and kittens, cool men and cool women all around campus. Make sure you tune in every day from 7:30 p.m. to 8 o'clock p.m. sharp. Do not miss out.
Yes, please tune in for the best 30 minutes of your life.
Boom.
Bang.
This is Sports Your Shorts. I'm Andrew.
I'm Jimmy.
And we're going to talk some NFL news. First, Jamal Charles has signed with the Denver Broncos.
I don't want to talk about it.
You don't want to talk about it? Did you hear what he tweeted? That he always wanted to be a Bronco?
Okay. Now, this is what I want to talk about. So, I was very mad when I first heard that.
Mm-hmm.
People took his saying, what he said, out of context to make everyone mad.
Yeah.
What he really said was, I was hurt when the Chiefs cut me, and I had to explain to my daughters, who grew up loving the Chiefs. They've only known me playing for the Chiefs. Why I don't play for the Chiefs anymore. And when I was a kid, I loved the Broncos, and that was my favorite team. And when I was a kid, I've always wanted to play with them.
Mm-hmm.
But I became a Chief, and Kansas City's my home. It'll always be my home, and I always loved the fans and the Hunt family for what they've done. So, I think the fans need to take a step back and read what he said first, instead of just reading the few lines.
When I read it, the first thing I looked up was where he was from and who he was as a kid. He always liked the Denver and Broncos. So the way I saw it is the same way I saw the Marshawn Lynch thing. You want to play for your hometown, the team you root for. That's your ultimate dream.
I get that. But the
That's
way
the way I saw it.
The way that they phrased it made it seem like the entire time he played with us, he wanted to play for Denver.
And
which
I
is
didn't
not
think
the
of it
case.
that way either.
I didn't think that, but as a Chiefs fan, I was just like, this isn't what I'm used to. Now, he said he's always wanted to play with them before he became a Chief. But now Kansas City's his home, and I think if he doesn't do good here, we'll sign him to a one-day contract.
Yeah.
So he can retire a Chief.
Yeah.
And he will always be a Chief. I don't care. As long I'm going to root for him in every game except for 2.
The way I look at it is kind of like Tony Gonzalez. He is always a Chief. Regardless if he went to Atlanta for, I think 3 years is when he went to Atlanta for, and did his thing and tried to win a Super Bowl. Tony Gonzalez, in my eyes, is always a Chief.
I don't blame him for doing that. I
don't
don't think it's because he wanted to win a Super Bowl. I think it's because he knew Scott Pioli and Todd Haley were full of crap.
Well, I think it's because he wanted to be on a winning team.
I get that. No.
I feel like that had to do something with it.
It was more Todd Haley and Scott Pioli than anything. Because we had a lot of people say their practices were a nightmare because Todd Haley did not treat his players with respect.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not okay.
All right, now another news. Robert Kraft says the entire league is out to get him because of Deflategate. What do you think?
It's not just Deflategate. There was also Spygate.
Yeah, and
they're known cheaters, and he's just mad because they got busted cheating again. And he shouldn't be complaining because despite the suspension that everybody wanted them to get, Tom Brady still led them to win a Super Bowl.
I said that I thought the Patriots were going to win the Super Bowl when they made the playoffs. And when I said it, I prayed that it was not going to be a scandal. Because every year that they've gone to the Super Bowl and they've won, there's been a scandal. They taped the Rams when they played the Rams. They taped them. They didn't get caught for that. They taped the Raiders. And they got caught for that. And then they had Deflategate. They've always had a scandal when they win.
I'm so tired of the Patriots. They're cheaters. Are they not?
They're not. I mean, and they are. They've always had a scandal when they win. And I'm just kind of waiting for there to be a scandal to come out. I really am. Because I feel like there's going to be one. And I really hate to see a team that dominates because of the scandals because it just shows that other teams can cheat.
They're a dynasty. But does this mean in the future, will they be seen as a dominant team or a team that only won because of cheating? What do you think is going to... 10 years down the line, or 20 years down the line when you're talking to your kids, oh, I used to watch the Patriots. They won 5 Super Bowls in 15 years. What do you think it's going to be?
I think it's overwhelming that they're going to be a dominant franchise because people are just going to look at what they've won. They're not going to look at how they did it. I mean, we can sit here and talk about Deflategate, but how many people remember it? They still won a Super Bowl. We're on the next thing. We don't remember the past. It's over and done with. That we can sit here and talk about Spygate, but how many people remember it? There wasn't very much of them done to it. They weren't stripped of their Super Bowl ring. Nothing traumatic happened. Yeah, they were suspended a couple games. Same thing with Deflategate. They weren't stripped of it. They were just suspended a couple games. So I think you're still going to look at them as a dominant franchise regardless if they cheated, nothing happened. Regardless if they were suspended a couple games. That's my opinion on it.
All right. So the NFL is releasing their top 100 players. They've released the 81 through 100, and Adrian Peterson was number 98.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that he deserves to be on this top list if he hasn't played in a year?
No. I think Adrian Peterson should have retired after the child abuse scandal, because after that he had an amazing year, and he also blew out his knee that year, and just had an amazing year. I think he should have retired because he would have went out on top. He did terrible this year, regardless of that's Minnesota's line. He did terrible, and I don't think he's going to do that good in New Orleans because New Orleans is a pass first team. So I feel like he should have retired out on top, and I don't think he should be considered in the top 100 when he hasn't done anything since
Exactly. Now,
almost 2 years.
Alex Smith was also in the top 100,
Mm-hmm.
which I agree with.
Yeah.
Because he might not be the best quarterback. He's very consistent, and he is a really good athletic player.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So back to the Patriots for a little bit again. They are the overwhelming favorites to win the Super Bowl according to Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think they should be, or who do you think should be?
I think that them coming off a Super Bowl win definitely gives them a big notch up there, but I still think Atlanta has a chance. I mean, even though they had an amazing run, and I don't think they're going to have another amazing run.
It's statistically impossible for them to have another run like that.
And I would go with, as for the Patriots making it, I don't really have a team in my mind that's going to make it to the Super Bowl, but I do think the Dolphins have a strong chance of beating the Patriots this year because of what they did in the draft, and they're a very strong team, and they almost beat them both times they played. So I think that could have some effect. I also think that the way the Saints made moves in the offseason really helps, and there's a lot of teams that helped their stock in the draft that I feel like could just up and surprise us.
Okay, I don't think the Patriots are going to do it. I think it's going to be between two teams, both in the AFC West. And I'm not just saying this because I'm a homer. I am a homer, but that's not the reason I'm saying this. I think it's going to be between the Chiefs and Raiders. Whoever out of those two is going to win their games, that person will go to the Super Bowl.
I can agree with you on those teams just because the Raiders have a great defense, and I also think that them getting Marshawn Lynch could help him a lot.
He won't be a 1,000-yard rusher.
I don't need him. That's not what I'm saying.
Anyways, we're not going to get back into this debate.
Okay, I don't need him to be a 1,000-yard rusher. I just feel like I feel like having a veteran running back is better than having two rookies start. That's all I'm saying.
But they're not rookies.
Yes, they are.
They played last year.
They played terribly.
They are not rookies, which is what I said.
They maybe played 2 games at the most last year.
They played every game.
No,
it was a split backfield with all three.
No, because Washington was hurt most of the time, and then Jalen Richard barely played anything. Regardless of them not being rookies, I trust a veteran running back who's done well in the league over those two guys. That's all I'm saying. That I feel like with Marshawn Lynch, they have a veteran presence. We can go back and forth on how we feel about Lynch. I just feel like I'd rather have Lynch than both of those guys.
I don't, but we'll have to disagree on this.
And
in the NFC side of things, the Cowboys are not favorites to go to the Super Bowl for the NFC.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think they're in the top 5. Do you think they should be, or what?
I don't think they should be favorites. I kind of agree with that, but because them winning 12 games last year was amazing. I do see them winning 10 games this year because I think
9, 10.
I think they're a good team. I don't know if they're going to win the division, but I feel like 9-10, with how weak some of the teams in the NFC is, they can make a wild card and then they can make a push. I don't know if they're going to win the division because the Eagles are a very tough team. I don't think their defense is that strong, but the Eagles are a very tough team, and the Giants are really tough also in that division.
They have not beat the Giants this year.
So that goes back to my point.
Dak Prescott and Zeke has never beat the Giants, so that's a good point. I think the NFC Super Bowl. I don't think it's going to be the Packers because they did not get Aaron Rodgers any help.
Mm-hmm.
And Aaron Rodgers needs help.
Yeah.
I think it'll either be between the Eagles, the Giants, or the Buccaneers. I think the Buccaneers this year, they've made so many improvements that they could be the NFC team to beat.
Mm-hmm. I really do think they did. They did amazing in the draft. They got O.J. Howard as a steal, and they got some good receivers.
I think the Buccaneers this year could do what the Panthers did 2 years ago. Except win the Super Bowl.
In other news, Jay Cutler signed a deal with Fox to be an analyst. So 2 quarterbacks, both Jay Cutler and Tony Romo, who didn't get contracts and didn't get offers. Tony Romo's a different story, but Jay Cutler and all that have signed broadcasting deals, and they aren't going to play in the NFL. Do you think this is because the NFL is a younger league, or do you think it is because the team saw that these players didn't have it in them?
I think it's different for Tony Romo and Jay Cutler. I think Tony Romo, I think Jerry Jones was talking to him like, look, I don't want you going anywhere else. Why don't you just retire? And that way, I will personally guarantee you in the Ring of Honor for the Cowboys.
Okay.
It let the Cowboy fans remember you fondly instead of betraying us and going somewhere else. Yeah. And he was like, okay, I'll do that. Mm-hmm. And that's how he got the CBS job.
Yeah.
I don't think Jay Cutler, nobody wanted him. Nobody.
Mm-hmm.
The Texans weren't calling. He couldn't even get a job at the Browns or Jets. However, I don't think he's going to be a good analyst either because he's not very personable. Mm-hmm. He doesn't talk a lot, and when he does, he's really rude.
The way I see Jay Cutler, and I didn't see him getting signed much, is because when he played for the Bears, he always had the stat of how many touchdowns he threw. He threw the same amount of interceptions. I don't think he went one game without an interception. And that's just turnover. And they had this, the Bears kind of have this history. They had it with Rex Grossstrom. So it's just like, I just didn't see him go into a team that wanted to risk that much. Hey, we're going to get an okay quarterback, but he's going to turn over the ball. Because that's what Jay Cutler does. And with Tony Romo, I kind of always thought he was a little overrated. We can go back and forth about that. So I didn't see any of them getting a job. I saw Tony Romo more than Jay Cutler getting a job, but I kind of saw this happening.
Yeah, I think Tony Romo I don't think he was as bad as everyone thinks. I just think that certain people in the media only showed his bad plays, so the people who didn't watch every game didn't see everything. Because statistically, he's one of the best fourth quarter quarterbacks of all time.
Yeah.
However, I don't think he's going to be. I think he's going to do okay
as an analyst.
He's going to do much better than Jay Cutler.
I do believe that. All right, we're going to hit a commercial break, and then we're going to come back to some NFL news because we got to pay some bills. This is Sports Your Shorts.
I'm Jimmy.
And I'm Andrew. Go.
And we are back to Sports Your Shorts. Let's jump right back into it. The rumors are Brandon Marshall plans to retire in 2 years. Do you think he has 2 good years left in him?
Well,
or does he have more?
It's not a rumor. He did say on his Twitter that he plans to retire because he wants to do something for the mental health community and make it more known in the world, which I really agree with this. But
I think that's a noble thing.
And there's other reasons why I agree with it because it's pretty personal to me. But I think that he does have at least 1 good year in him. I don't know going for 2, but he is on the Giants, and the Giants have amazing receivers, so maybe he doesn't have to have 2 good years because he doesn't have to carry a team like he did with the Bears, the Dolphins, and the Jets. This is kind of a time for him to step back.
Yeah, I'm pretty. I think he could play longer than 2 years. But I think retiring early is better than retiring late.
Yeah, and I kind of have liked Brandon Marshall's career. I'm not a big fan of the kind of person he is sometimes, but I've really liked his career. He did amazing with the Bears. and the Bears thought it was time to let him go, and they were madly mistaken because he did amazing with the Dolphins. Dolphins thought the same thing. It's time to let him go. He did pretty well with the Jets. He had a little bit of a rocky year last year, but every time when some team thinks it's time for him to go, he shows them, hey, I've got this left, and you made the wrong decision. So I really like that. And for him to say he's going to retire in 2 years, maybe it gives him a chance to go out on top, which is kind of untrue for Adrian Peterson and other players that had the chance to go out on top and chose not to. So, in other news, Ben McAdoo has told Eli Manning to not mentor their new quarterback, Davis Webb. What do you think about this, Jimmy?
I am not sure what to think. It could be either because he doesn't want Eli teaching him the bad things, or he really just wants Eli to focus on playing. What do you think?
I think if you mentor someone, it could be good or bad. I like that one thing is that he wants Eli to focus on playing. It gives him not too much on his plate and gives him a chance to say, like, this is all that matters. Me playing the game, me winning games for our team, and all that. Not, I have to mentor this guy and I have to play. Like, keep him with one thing.
That's a good point. I think that it's more telling that he doesn't want the bad things that Eli Manning does to be taught to him. But I don't think that's a good idea because Eli's a very successful quarterback.
Yeah, and I always felt like Eli Manning was a quarterback that was successful because he wasn't the best quarterback. Like, I always thought his brother was better, but who won more Super Bowl rings for the longest time? Eli.
I think Eli's got one more Super Bowl left in him.
And I could agree with you because he knows when to show up. And
if he can get to the playoffs, he's very good in the playoffs as long as his receivers don't go party that week. Now, I think the reason he wants to win is because he wants something over his brother.
Yeah.
And I have no problem with that at all. In other news, back to Marshawn Lynch. Yay. It is reported that he is apparently, quote, in better shape than anyone ever expected, unquote. And he's playing with revitalized passion. Is that news or is it nothing?
We have different opinions about Marshawn Lynch. I honestly think this is good for the Raiders, and I really think it's good. And you just think it's terrible. It's the worst thing ever, and all this other stuff. So, and we're never going to agree, no matter how much I try to convince you. We're just never going to agree.
No, we won't. Not at all.
But my opinion is that this is good for the Raiders, and I think it's only going to help their team. And your opinion is it's going to torment their team.
I never said it would torment their team. I said it will not be what they wanted. They're not gonna be as good as everyone's expecting.
And I think they're gonna be better than everyone is expecting.
We're gonna have to disagree on that. In other news, do you think that the Bears are overtaking the Browns as the league's worst run franchise?
Yes, because of what they did in the draft. I thought it was the stupidest thing ever, how much they gave up to move up one pick and get Mitchell Trubisky. I still cannot get over it, how stupid it is. Like, they could have stayed where they were at and got him. And the fact that they did not tell John Fox that it was going to happen, and they could have even got Mitchell Trubisky in the second round. I really think they could have, because not a lot of teams were looking at him. So, for them to risk all of that to move up one pick and get him, I still can't get over it. I really can't. And it was the dumbest move I've ever seen on national TV.
It was an abomination, and the worst part is they invited Mike Glennon to their draft party, and he had to sit there, and he had no idea. He had to sit there while they traded up one pick to get his replacement when he finally thought this was his big break.
And how much money they gave Mike
they
Glennon.
Didn't even tell John Fox it was happening. How much discord is there in that organization where the GM and the head coach, they're not working together. They are building the team in separate ways. And that's not a success. They're not going to be successful doing that.
And what I also don't get is them paying they gave Mike Glennon an outrageous contract. I didn't think he was that good of a quarterback to get the money he got, and then for them to do all that in the draft. Like, I thought, like, okay, they don't have a quarterback anymore, so they're going to get Mike Glennon. Okay, they're going to give him a lot of money. Maybe he asked for that much money. Maybe they couldn't find anybody. Okay, I can kind of take this. But then you do all that in the draft. Like, what are you doing? And maybe their thought pattern is Mike Glennon might get hurt, and they're just trying to have someone to back him up. Or maybe their thought pattern is, what if Mike Glennon does terrible, and we got this guy, like, to get the fans behind. But the fans aren't even behind Mitchell Trubisky. Like, they booed him.
They're booing him. The fans were behind Mike Glennon. It's an embarrassment, and they should be ashamed of themselves. This once proud franchise, who had Coach Ditka, they had Brian Urlacher, all these superstars. They used to be a dominant franchise, and now they're reduced to this.
I can't even fathom it still.
I feel bad for their fans. I really do. And I don't really know what else to say.
Like, I'm still dumbfounded. Like, why? Like, oh my god, it just grinds my gears.
Alrighty. Man, I wish there was a way that people could interact with us during the week.
Well, there is, Jimmy.
No way! What is it?
I think there's this thing called Facebook.
That sounds like it's never going to take off.
Well, there's millions and millions of people that use it every day.
Are we on it?
Yes.
How do they find us?
By just typing Sports Your Shorts in the search bar. That's all you do.
Pretty easy.
Yeah.
And also, they could follow us on Twitter. I'm at James Little 93.
And I'm at Music Man Andrew.
And, so just let us know if you have any opinions about the show, what you think. And, we'll see you next week.
Alright, this is Sports Your Shorts. I'm Andrew.
I'm Jimmy.